Is it cheaper to buy or rent a house in 2024? Well, that decision comes down to these three things. In this video, I'm going to tell you what they are, as well as the number one metric I would start with in deciding whether to rent or buy. And at the end of the video, I'm going to share a tool that is guaranteed to help you make that all-important decision. I don't think that's an overstatement. Let's jump in. The median cost of a home in the U.S. is 6 times median income. Is that a lot? You're darn right it is, especially when you compare it to the 1970s. Today, if you earn $100,000, your house might cost you $600,000. In the 1970s, you only paid 3 times income for a house. In other words, for the same money, you could buy twice as much house in the 70s as you can today. Housing costs are eating up a bigger and bigger share of our paychecks. When you tack on rising interest rates, it's even worse. So those are 2 huge reasons not to buy a house in 2024. There's just one problem. Rents are rising as well. Rents are up just about everywhere, especially in big cities like New York and San Francisco, where you may pay $4,000 a month for the privilege of renting a 1-bedroom apartment the size of a small closet. Okay, a large closet. And you can only live with your parents for so long. That puts us between the proverbial rock and hard place. The decision to rent or buy comes down to these 3 things: location, location, location. I know, I couldn't resist. Someone who purchased a house in rural West Virginia in 1990 is sitting on a very different asset than someone who purchased a home at the same time and price in San Francisco. The metric I would use is something called price to rent. Rents go up and home prices go up, but they don't necessarily rise proportionally everywhere. An area can be expensive to buy in, but not expensive to rent in, and vice versa. In some places like New York and San Francisco, it's expensive to rent and buy. So how does this work? The price to rent in a given area is the median home price divided by the median annual rent. According to Trulia, a price to rent ratio between 1 and 15 means it's cheaper to buy than rent. A ratio of 16 or higher means it's probably cheaper to rent. And if the ratio is in the 20s, it's an easy decision. For goodness sake, if you're going to live in that area, rent. Let's say you want to live in a particular neighborhood and you want to know what to do. The median purchase price for a home is $240,000. If the median annual rent for a similar residence in the same neighborhood is $12,000 or $1,000 a month, the ratio is 20, which means it's cheaper to rent. If the rents in the same area were $24,000 or $2,000 a month, the ratio is 10, which means it's cheaper to buy. Notice I said cheaper and not better. Why? Because buying a house is as much an emotional decision as it is a number crunching decision. If you have your little heart set on owning a home in XYZ neighborhood and you don't care what it costs, well, what are you going to do? Back to our regularly scheduled programming, the numbers, which brings me to this handy-dandy tool that I found in the New York Times. It's the single best buy versus rent decision tool I've seen. It considers pretty much every variable you'll need, and once you plug in all the assumptions, and there are plenty of them, then it tells you whether to rent or buy. In my next video, I'll show you exactly how I would use this tool with a real-life example.